Hi, I was asked to talk about coring today. The first question is, why do I want to core a bowl? Well, in a case like this where I was gifted a black ash burl, this bowl is about 10 inches deep by 22 inches across, and I would like to maximize this beautiful grain and get multiple bowls out of that rather than having one bowl and one pile of shavings on the floor. So there's basically three coring systems that I know of. The first one is probably the most economical, definitely the easiest to use, and the most simplistic in its process is the woodcut bowl saver. That is a system that it has the support mechanism, the knife mechanism, all in one piece, and I'm told it does a great job. The other system is a MMAW system. Now the MMAW system is the most versatile coring system. You get multiple knives, multiple shapes, and you can do a variety of different profiles of a bowl, where the woodcut and the system that I'll be showing you, you are kind of limited to the curvature of the knife or the radius of the cut. So the MMAW system will do far more. You can do deep straight line cuts, you can do various arc cuts, but it does probably have the greatest learning curve to it. And it's not for the faint of heart. It can be a little bit intimidating, but an excellent system. The system that I'll be talking about today is the system made by Oneway. There's multiple pieces that you need to purchase for this to fit your particular lathe. The first one is the Easycore base, and you purchase that based on the throw of your lathe. That would be from the center, your center point to the ways of your lathe. In my case, it's a 24-inch throw, so I ordered the 24-inch base. You also need to order separately the mounting bracket for that, or the mounting block, and you order that based on the size or the space of the gap of your ways. The system has two standpipes. The furthest one back holds your cutter knife. That drops into that. And then you have the support arm that helps support your cutter as it goes into the bowl. With the base, you get a handle for the cutters that you interchange between the multiple cutters. There's 4 cutters available for the Oneway system. The other thing you need to know when you order your cutter, which comes with the support arm, is what type of a cutting bit you want. Lower priced one is a high-speed steel cutter, and that looks something like so. Oneway sells a bracket or a fixture that you can mount your cutter to go to your grinder and resharpen it. The other one looks just like that, but it's a carbide. You can order that when you order the knives. You order the carbide cutter. I'm told they last longer, but there is a difference in how you sharpen that. You don't go to your grinder or your CBN wheel. You need to use a diamond hone to sharpen that. The third option, just introduced in 2020, is from Mike Hunter. It's rated to fit the cutter perfectly. It's got a carbide indexable cutting bit on it that is replaceable, and as it wears out, you can turn it to the next of the 4 sides to cut it. That's the one I'm going to be using today, and the big difference that I've found is with the Core Pro, I would be getting shavings out. I don't know what will happen with this burl. We'll learn that together. Whereas the standard Oneway cut, you pretty much, it's a scraper and you're just getting sawdust out of there, and you might have to back your knife out multiple times and keep that groove clean as you're going through it. And one final thing you might want to consider investing in, recommended by Oneway, is a Morris taper extension. And what that will allow you to do is put your tailstocks live center and be able to extend that further out to support your bowl as you're coring it, and you'll see that in a moment. The next component, or a jig, that I want to share with you is something you may not have seen before. It was first introduced to me by Dan Larson at the Minnesota Woodturners Association when Dan did a demo on coring earlier this summer. And I'll start out by saying the first time I saw the Easycore system utilized, I thought it was very complicated, for lack of a better term. It was a lot. It seemed like a lot of guesswork, and I will accept the fact that maybe that person was not that familiar with it. So there was a lot of guesswork on how deep the knife was going to go, and how far out you'd go, and how many bowls I could get out of this. And so what it is a post that you can create with a 1-inch stem on it, shouldered, with an outrigger on it that will accept a laser pointer. And each of these 3 and soon to be 4 holes are very precisely measured to match the arc of the cutter knife. So with that, what it'll allow me to do is I drop that into the cutter post, and as I swing that jig around, I can see exactly how deep that cut is going to be, where my entry point is. Does it line up with my support bracket? So with this jig, I know where my depth of my cut's going to be. I know my entry point for that first bowl. And all I need to do is make an adjustment to my base plate. I loosen up the mounting block. I push it in. I pull it out towards me. That changes my entry point. Now I'll be making an 8-inch bowl. My support bracket will stay the same. I'm right on center there, haven't changed that. But I know that that's exactly where the bottom of the next bowl is going to be. So what I've done is I've put my cutter in place, in the place of the measuring jig, the laser jig. I put the handle on my cutter. I put the Core Pro Hunter bit on my knife. I've added my extension to my live center. I've brought my live center up, and I have that snugged in there. I've put my support bracket as close to the wood as I can get to help give me maximum support. And then we will start making some shavings. So here we go. We'll put some rotation to the wood. And what I'll be doing is starting to plunge the cutter in till I get to about this point here where the transition to the cutter bit is. And then we'll make an adjustment, start using the support bracket. So with that, here we go. So notice the shavings that are coming out of there. It's a nice curl, because what we're doing is we're actually cutting wood, we're not scraping wood. Again, I'm going to about this point. I put very little pressure on it. I'm letting the cutter do most of the work. At that point, I'm about even with that transition I talked about. As you noticed, I did not have to stop and clean out shavings. I'm getting a nice ribbon coming out of there, and that's out of a burrow, which is a nice surprise for me. So now what I'm going to do is I'll have to loosen my bracket. I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to start to plunge the support arm into the wood to that depth that we cut at. How would I know that? I'll kind of Just rotate a little bit, make sure I'm clear, and I'm going to lock that in place. So now I'm supported about 2 inches into the wood. Takes all the vibration out of it. I'm getting about that 6-inch bowl I wanted to. I'm shooting for about that 2.5-inch depth. I know that because of my jig. We'll start her up and continue to do our cut. At this point, I'm going to stop when my handle is about to the post of the support arm. I'm going to just stop and push my support arm in a little bit further. It certainly doesn't help, or it doesn't hurt, I should say. All right, I'll make that rotation, make sure I'm clear, and we'll go back to it. When my cutter is being supported, I continue to get those nice long shadings out. I can tell, I can hear, I can see that I'm just about to the bottom of that bowl. The sound is changing to me a little bit. I'm seeing a little bit of movement on that bowl. And we'll just keep going a little bit more. And there it is. Having that live center on did 2 things for me. It supported that whole cutting process, and it keeps that bowl from flinging out on me. So let's take a look at our first cord bowl. So there, that bowl will allow me to put a small tenon on the back of that, just to hold it while I hollow out the inside, and I'll have that beautiful burl grain on a small bowl that would otherwise ended up in the pile. So next I'm going to be going to my number 2 knife, go back to my jig. I've moved my laser to the next hole over, drop that into the standpipe, and I've adjusted the base in so that I get about an inch bottom of my bowl. I brought it over, I measured so that I brought it towards me, so I got about an inch on the on my entry point. The reason I do that is I'm cutting about a good 3/8 inch groove, so I have to compensate that into my measurements. So the next bowl is going to be approximately about 8.5 inches. Put some power behind it. Very light pressure on the front cut. Again, I'm getting those beautiful ribbons coming out of the bowl. Stop. And I'll readjust my support arm into the wood. So I've moved my support arm back, put it in the wood until I touch the bottom and come back a little bit. I make sure the radius of the support arm and the radius of the cutter all line up. Give it a rotation to make sure I'm clear. Put some power on it. And away I go. My next stopping point will be when the arm gets in the middle of the support arm post. Good here. We're going to stop. We're going to go deeper with the support arm. And I'm going to make sure that radius with the cutting arm and the radius of the support arm lines up. I did see we blew out a little bit of this bowl, but that's the way it goes. That's a challenge in design, and we'll save that, put that back in with a little bit of epoxy, and I'm sure we'll save that bowl, no problem. All right, I'll make that rotation. Everything is good. We'll put some power to it. This large of a piece of wood. That's about a depth of about another ½ inch or 3/4 up. And I'm through. So there's my next bowl, about 3/4 inch wall thickness. I've got about 1 inch on the bottom thanks to my laser, so I know that I've got enough material for a tenant there. All right, so I returned my laser jig to the system. We'll replace the laser pointer with the cutter. We'll get our live center back into place. Put some power to it. And start the process all over again. Beautiful shape. We're about there. Okay, I have moved my support arm into the wood. Again, lining it up with the cutter, the same arc. Make sure we're clear. Put some power to it and keep on going. So what I have done is I've stopped. I've moved my arm back in deeper. Going back in. And there we go. So we've got another bowl. Not too worried about that. I think that's going to make a nice, that's a repairable feature. But I got plenty of wood on the base to make the tenant. Comment about making the tenant. Some people I've seen do it where they'll take the bowl and turn it around, find the center of that, use that as your jam chuck, and create the tenant at this point. I have no problem finding the tenant, or finding the center. I'll do that after the fact. So there's 3 bowls, and with that laser pointer I'm able to mark off each one of them, so I know the depth that I'm going into, and I know the plunge point, so that I've got plenty of wood to work with to get that bowl remounted after it dries and true it up. We'll now start the 4th bowl. I've already used my jig. I've gone to the 3rd hole in my jig for the 3rd number 3 knife and number 3 support arm.